Well, Anushia, it's great to have you here in studio. Thank you so much for coming through to our studios.
Thanks, Shayla. It's lovely being here. It's an honor.
You know what, Anasia? I'm so in love with Indian dance, Indian culture, the food. The cuisine is just absolutely beautiful. But the dancing is even better. The clothes, the colors. And that's exactly what you do for a living.
Yes.
It's your
Yes.
passion. You're the director of Anavarata, did I pronounce that
Yes.
well? Anavarata
Perfect.
Dance Institute. Welcome to the show once again. It is the woman feature. And I'm glad to have you here. Talk to us
Thanks.
about your
It's
work.
ideal for Women's Month, isn't it?
Exactly.
Well, the work that we do spans 58 years now. And it started with my mother and my aunt, who were the pioneers of Indian classical dance in this
All
country.
women.
All
Wow.
women. And that's the irony. Anavarata has always been a women and youth empowerment based. Ever since it started, this was during apartheid. So, yes, although there was separate development, my mother and aunt and their families always reached across to other cultures. Whether it was in the audience, whether it was the guests of honor, which they had Mr. Ken Gampu on. I'm talking about in the early 60s. This was unheard of. It was unheard of where Indian dancers toured, and my mother and my aunt toured the entire Union or Republic at
Yeah.
that time. So we've always been cutting edge artists, ahead of our times sometimes. I think always ahead of our times, which is a little difficult because it takes a while for everyone to sort of catch up. But what we do now is although Indian classical dance is our roots, we've sort of evolved into a South African dance company that is a member of UNESCO Council of International Dance.
Oh,
That is the level
nice.
of recognition we've received for the work we do.
Yeah.
And the work we do is multicultural, intercultural, integrated cultures, and cross-cultural, whatever you'd like to call it. That is what we do, as long as it's dance. Because my mom and I were always mesmerized by dance. The first production I can remember was when I was about 4 years old, Ipin Tombi, and Margaret Nsingana was my favorite singer. At 3 and 4, she was my favorite singer. We never saw dance as an exclusive enclave to any culture. We believe arts was meant for humanity, and
True.
it is the great unifier. So
I like that.
that's what we use dance and dance theater for.
And speaking of that, you also are doing such a phenomenal job. You work with African kids.
Yes, I do.
Those are your dancers.
Yes.
Now, talk to us about that process. How is it that you got to get involved with African kids, and where are they from?
My kids, I call them my kids. I don't call them my students because they are my kids.
Exactly.
We believe in nurturing. Our main core value is family.
Yeah.
And whether it's the kids, whether it's their families, whether it's the community. I'm a social worker by profession. My first 2 degrees are in social work. So my master's is arts-based,
Yeah.
theatre and performance. So as a social worker, as someone who just loves culture and loves people, if you love culture, you have to love people. They sort of go hand in hand. I'm originally from KZN, so I worked with a lot of, I had a lot of experience with through Brownies and the Girl Guides, where we worked in a lot of jamborees and cross-cultural, and I've always been fascinated. Coming from KZN, you cannot not watch Ndlamu or the Zulu culture, and it's so
Yeah.
powerful and so beautiful. I've always been fascinated by other cultures. I've always had this aptitude for languages and for learning their dances.
Yeah.
So when I moved up to Johannesburg in 2000, in KZN we already started teaching African dances. Tandiwe Princess Mzobe was the first Kathak African dancer in this country, and she was a little 9-10-year-old girl.
Wow.
Because I lectured at Ketamana Technical College, which is now part of the Durban University of Technology.
Yeah.
And so cross-cultural was easy. When we went to Mauritius, we performed to Mahlatini and the Mahotela Queens, because we didn't just want to bring Indian culture, because South Africa is we're not just Indians, we're South African. And I think that is something that we really, really need to embrace if we're going to go get past any kind of prejudice or biases. And when I came here, I wanted so much to work in the townships. A lot of the times the dancers came to us, to a central venue.
Yeah.
So I wanted to go and work in the communities. And that's what I did. I started in Soweto, moved to Tembisa, Klipfontein View area. But my dancers come from all over Gauteng, from all the townships. We in the next year, we're going to be working with Johannesburg inner city youth and kids and
Lovely.
women. So I'm a nomad. I'm a gypsy by nature. I think that's the nature of being an artist.
Yeah.
So for me to travel and work and be part of that community is the greatest privilege and honor. And the wonderful thing is I'm always embraced by the community.
But tell me, Anushia, how is the behavior of these little ones, not so little ones, but when they approach you and they actually have to learn Indian dancing, what's the reaction?
You're going to be surprised because initially I expected there to be resistance, to another culture. There was no resistance. The kids embraced other cultures like hip hop, like Indian dance. They loved Indian dance. They took to it like fish to water. Obviously, the difference between African dances and Indian classical dance is the major muscle and minor muscle groups.
Okay.
Whereas with African dance, everything's very big. We use the big muscles, the big joints. Whereas with Indian, everything is very subtle and it's like fingers. And because we tell stories with our hands, each position of your fingers and placement has a symbol. It's almost like a sign language. Every minute muscle in your face converts to an expression which carries the entire story. So you use in Kathak you use your entire body. In the South Indian classical dances, it's very much the face and the hands that tell the story. So it was the conversion for me. That was, I actually had some kids come to me and say, my hands are quite silly because they don't want to do what they need to do. It's a training process, and that's why we take time and we work with each individual's ability. What I found in some cases was resistance to African dance. A lot of the kids wanted to be modern and were shying away from their tradition. So that's where my multitude of dance training, I've been trained in Malaysia by the Malaysian government as well.
Yeah.
So because I have knowledge of African dance, of ballroom, Latin American, modern, jazz, a bit of ballet thrown in, Indian classical, folk, tribal, you name it. I take to it like a fish to water. So because of all of that, and because I have such a vast dance vocabulary, I said, okay, I'll make a deal with you. I will teach you another culture, but you're going to do gumboots with me, or you're going to do ndlamu with me, or you're going to do sipedi with me. And what I used to do is merge gumboot, the traditional gumboot, with crumping and hip hop and create something that they could relate to. And after that, they were loving it. And it was just making deals and negotiating,
No, super.
That was it.
Super. And at the same time, creating employment for young people.
Absolutely. What we're doing is we're empowering them with skills, firstly. And what we do is not a hobby course by any means. When we teach kids, it is the youth that have been trained. They start off as dancers. They get promoted to trainee trainers, dance captains, choreographers, directors.
There you go.
So they actually move up in the rank professionally. They are taught to have professional ethics and etiquette from day one.
And they have the experience as well.
Exactly. And then they're taken wherever. There are kids. Most of my kids, in fact, almost all of them, have traveled for the first time on an aeroplane with me. They've stayed in a hotel for the first time with me. So I get to experience the joy of watching that. And it's amazing. It fills my heart with such joy. And I think that's what they fuel the work that I do.
Oh, beautiful, super. And of course, as a Dance Institute, you've also been part of the SA India Day Carnival.
Yes.
You've been with them throughout the duration.
I wouldn't say
minus.
right from the beginning, but our relationship has started, I would say, just under a decade.
Wow.
And we've worked together every year.
They must
almost
really
since
love
then.
you then.
And I really love them. The kids enjoy the experience.
Yeah.
It's such a joy and a pleasure, and they're really respectful of the work we do. So I think it's a mutual admiration society.
So talk to us more about the SA India Day Carnival. For
Okay.
those of us that don't know much about it.
All
But
right.
I've seen your group. I've watched you before. But yeah, let's go
Yeah.
for it.
Okay. SA India Day actually celebrates India's Independence Day, which is on the 15th of August. And every year, the non-resident Indians get together. They form India Club. So they get together and bring not just India, but South Africans together to celebrate that independence.
Yeah.
And I think it's their 72nd this year. So we get together, we perform together, we share that camaraderie, because my ancestors came as indentured laborers to South Africa. Not all Indians that came as indentured laborers. Some of them came as traders, as professionals, as teachers, lawyers, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I'm talking from 1860 to about 1890s, thereabout. It was a lot of indentured laborers coming in. And so we have that sugarcane connection. So that's how the synergy happens. But it is about experiencing everything Indian,
Yeah.
from the dress to the music to the dance to
the food.
food. Oh yeah, I'm a big foodie, so I will definitely be there having some pani puri. And it's just their technology is amazing. I mean, the vehicles, the products, beauty products. It's not just. It's the whole experience. Let's just put it that way. Very holistic. It covers mind, body, soul, spirit, and everything else in between.
I like that. And of course, the beauty is that it's free of charge.
Absolutely, and that's what I love supporting.
Yeah.
Is that it shouldn't be about those that have separated from those that have not. So anybody from any walk of life, it's. As I said, it's an equal playing field. So anybody can come and enjoy it. And I think that is really, really special.
Well, that's beautiful. So it's the SA India Day Carnival coming to Josie this August, and it's free of charge.
10th of August at Wanderers Rugby Stadium. If they want to catch us, if your listeners want to catch us, we'll be performing the big time slot that's been given is between 6 and 8 p.m. Because it's going from the morning, from 11 a.m. till 10:30 at night. So it's going to be guaranteed it's going to be a party.
Oh, super. But then what's next for you? What's next for Anushia?
We have we work closely with City of Johannesburg. We have a performance for Women's Day in the inner city the day before this carnival. We have a lot of women empowerment events happening. There's Diwali coming next, and there's we do a lot of corporate work. We do a lot of work with high commissions and the various diplomatic corps that exists in South Africa. Hopefully an international trip or two. There's a lot on the cards. A lot exciting going on.
Wow, you're such a busy woman. How'd you keep up?
Well, for me personally, hopefully December, fingers crossed, I graduate with my master's degree. So
Lord have mercy. Which you did in 6 months.
Yes, I did. Oh, yes. Sorry. I forgot that I mentioned that to you. Yes, I completed it in 6 months.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for coming through and talking to us and enlightening us with some Indian vibes. We're certainly looking forward.
It is my pleasure, and thank you so much for embracing everything that South Africa has to offer. I think that's wonderful.
Super. Thank you.